Good morning. Oh, great to see you all. I'm Sarita Nair, the Cabinet Secretary for Workforce Solutions, and it's my honor to welcome you to the 2024 State Workforce Conference. We're so excited to have you here. So I've been thinking back to 2020 when there was a lot of talk about taking that moment that we had and turning it into a movement. There was the moment when a murder was caught on tape and it gave birth to a movement of alternative response and community policing. There was a moment when entire communities were left behind as the world went remote and online, and that gave birth to a movement of broadband access and equity. And I could go on and on. But workforce is having our moment. I'm sure you all see it. We hear it everywhere. We hear it from every industry, every sector, every small town, every big city. Everybody's talking about workforce all of a sudden. And so the question before us is, how do we take our moment and make sure it remains a movement? We have to make sure that workforce is always at the education table to talk about the value of work-based learning and earn-as-you-learn models like apprenticeship and IETs. We have to make sure workforce is always at the climate change table to ensure that workers who gave their careers and their lives and their communities in the fossil fuel industries also get the opportunities of the clean energy industries. And we have to make sure that workforce is always at the public safety table, because we have to remind people of the importance of reentry programs in preventing recidivism and the role that employment plays in bringing dignity and security to families. This is why we're all here together today, because while I'm sure no one of us knows how to take our moment and make it a movement, I'm very confident that all of us here in this room together can do it. And it's going to take keeping our foot on the accelerator, telling our story, and we've got our success stories kind of flipping through these screens throughout the day, so please take a minute to read them. And it's going to take forging new partnerships. And that brings us to our speaker today. I met Mayor Michael Morris in Clovis a few months ago, and it popped out for me because not a lot of municipal governments engage in workforce development. Some of the big cities do, but really it's traditionally been sort of a county, state, private, workforce boards. You don't see a lot of mayors popping up and taking charge when it comes to workforce, and I think it's because mayors are in charge of like everything else, right? So, if you don't get your garbage picked up, you complain to your mayor, and if there's a pothole on your street, you complain to your mayor, and if the street light's out, there's a stray dog on your street, you complain to the mayor. So why would any mayor want people to start complaining about workforce to them by jumping out in front of this train? But Mayor Morris was an exception to that rule, and has been a great partner for our Workforce Connection Center, and he'll tell us some great stories about that. He was elected mayor at the city of Clovis with the worst timing in history in March 2020, and he took office in, I think, April 2020, and then he was reelected in March 2024 when the world was much more sane. He's a fourth-generation New Mexican raised on a cattle ranch near Conchas Dam. Since arriving in Clovis in 2005, he has built a successful insurance agency and is proud to be a small business owner. He's a keen advocate of the Clovis area. He's supported the community in many ways: Rotary, Chamber of Commerce, the boards, Soapbox Derby, I don't even know what that is, coaching youth sports, and band boosters. Mayor Morris is passionate about the future success of Clovis. Since taking office, he has led in making policy changes aimed at creating jobs and growing the local economy. He's been successful in advocating at the federal and state levels on behalf of Clovis for infrastructure funding. And he serves as the chairman of the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority and represents the city of Clovis on the board of directors of the Ogallala Land and Water Conservancy. He's the chairman of the City of Clovis Investment Committee, Civil Aviation Board, Animal Control Task Force, and Senior Services Committee, as well as the treasurer of the Municipal League Board of Directors. But I think most importantly for everybody in this room, he shows up, right? Like he shows up where he's wanted, where he's needed, where he needs to hear from the community and speak to his constituents. And that's what I think makes a successful and powerful leader. So please join me in welcoming Mayor Morris.
Thank you so much, Madam Secretary, for the invitation to be here today, and certainly for that warm and generous welcome. And I can't believe it was just a few months ago that you and I met. I felt like we were fast friends and immediate partners. And that's the case certainly with the local office in Clovis. In fact, yeah, they're amazing. The local workforce connection office in Clovis. I've tried to solve the riddle of actually who does what title. It doesn't matter, because in Clovis that local office is a great partner in everything that we're trying to do. And so look, I'm humbled to be here today. I didn't know until the secretary said just a few moments ago that mayors don't usually get involved in workforce development. I didn't know there was an opt-out, uh, but I, I have it. That's always made sense to me when I felt the calling to run for mayor. Uh, Economic development, and obviously you can't think economic development without workforce development, were top of mind and remain top of mind for me. You heard him in the bio that I was raised on a cattle ranch out by Conscious. I did not think I was going to, become the mayor of a sizable city in the state of New Mexico at some point. But I just love my community, and I want to serve well and bloom where I've been planted. My wife is a first grade teacher. She has started her 19th year of teaching. It would be more, but she stayed home while our children were small. My daughter is a senior in high school, Clovis High student, but interestingly for this setting, you'd be interested to know that in Clovis we have a great partnership with the community college. My daughter attends the early college high school at CCC, so Lord willing, she'll get a diploma and an associate's degree. It's a great program. That program is growing. More and more kids coming up in Clovis are graduating from high school with an associate's on their way to four-year university, or with certificates ready to enter the workforce. And so we're really proud of that program. My son is 20 years old, and he just started his junior year at Eastern New Mexico University. And his name is Zach. And some of you are now realizing that his name is Zach Morris, for the Saved by the Bell fans out there. Sarah and I thought about that when we named him. We didn't name him after the character, but we thought, that show will have been long gone by the time he's a teenager. Wrong. So he's been Zach Morris. He's embraced it. He dresses up for Halloween as Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell. So anyway, I have an insurance agency, and I just went to work in the community and care about the community. I coached youth sports. I did civic organizations, all the stuff that you heard in the bio. And then in 2019, I had a group approach me, people whom I respected, and they said, we know that you're called to leadership. Would you do it? And I just said yes. And so that's how I became mayor. I just kept saying yes to my community. And as I said, workforce development is just a part of that and central to that. And so it is truly an honor, and it's very humbling to be invited and to hear you say things about what we're doing in Clovis, which we just think is what we're supposed to do, and so it's a blessing to hear those positive remarks. But it is humbling and blessing to be here with all of you who are doing the work of workforce development across the state. If I could this morning, I just want to tell you that I think it's so important. I think you're probably all optimistic. You're all the kind of people that want to partner, and you probably take your work personally. And so maybe my message today is just sort of like, yeah, Mike, we get it. That's what we do. But maybe someone here needs to be reminded of it, or maybe we just need to write it down again and just recommit to being optimistic. I'm optimistic about the future of New Mexico. And I'm not ignoring all of the junk that we all see around us when I say that. I over 4 years in public service now at the municipal level, I would define myself as optimistically realistic, right? I see the problems. We see the homelessness. We see the substance use disorder. We see the just kind of the absence of hope in a lot of people in our community and across our state. But I don't believe it has to stay that way. We're doing things to impact that, to improve that. And I think there's reason to believe, and I think you all do, that's why you're here, there's reason to believe that New Mexico has a bright future, right? So I'm optimistic about the future of New Mexico, and I want to just remind you today and call on you, challenge you to recommit to having an optimistic view about New Mexico. And I think there's power in saying it. Would you say I'm optimistic about New Mexico's future? Thank you. Thank you. We're all on the same page. So in Clovis, as I say, I'm optimistic about the future. I have a dream, I have a vision, and it informs how I act and how I behave in my activity on a daily basis. And we have some people from Clovis here today, and you might be checking me and going, Mayor Mike, I don't see you doing this, but I'm telling you, if I'm not, it's because they called me about their dumpster and about their dog that's running loose and all that stuff. But listen, I believe that Clovis is destined to be a city on the hill, if you will, or a beacon in eastern New Mexico, a regional hub city where eastern New Mexico and West Texas comes for a myriad of services, from retail to entertainment to healthcare. And we're making progress, even if it's sometimes really hard to see that progress. We're making progress in all of those areas. And my big vision is shared by our amazing commission and our partners across the community to include the Workforce Connection Office. And that directs my leadership focus and our leadership focus on really 5 areas, and you can't prioritize them over one another, right? But it's quality of life, and that's a big mushy category, but workforce development is involved. Public safety, water security. We're getting after the water scarcity issues in eastern New Mexico like never before, and we're doing a great job with it. Investing in our infrastructure. I got the complaint recently. I got to tell the Municipal League this last week as we hosted them in our city for their annual conference. But I got a complaint recently, several complaints recently, about all of the doggone road construction going on around town. Would you guys finish one thing before you start something else? And I said, you know what? I will wear that complaint. I will wear that complaint because we are doing things. We're investing in our streets, and we're trying to invest in our future. Lastly, and again, it's not last in priority, it's last but not least, economic development, job creation, and of course, workforce development. And we have amazing partners to get that done. In Clovis, it seems that we never have the money. We find a grant to do the plan. We get the plan done, and then we search for the grant funding to do the thing. And that's just where we're at all the time, whether it be on our airport terminal that we're working on, our big water projects. We don't get anything done without partnerships. I have a feeling that that's the case across the state, right? But we have to be committed to partnerships. And we have to have a selfless sense of we're going to work together because we can go farther if we're together, right? So we have to be committed to partnerships. I'm committed to partnerships. Will you say that you're committed to partnerships? So we are committed to being optimistic about New Mexico's future. We're committed to partnerships. And lastly, this morning, I want to just remind everyone to make it personal. And again, especially this one, I'm like getting in your business. And you're probably like, look, it already is personal to me. But sometimes we just need to be reminded and maybe say it aloud, say it to one another, and write it down. But this is personal. The community that you're from is not just some community. It's your community. This state is not just the state of New Mexico. It's our state of New Mexico. And it matters. The work that we do matters. It impacts our friends and neighbors. Thank you. The work that we do matters, and it is personal. We have to take it personal, and we have to make it personal, because we're speaking life into New Mexicans of all ages. In my mind are the young adults, right? And I think that we can all agree that we need to capture our young adults. We need to speak life into them, speak value into them, and have them dream bigger and work harder and have a broader, brighter horizon for how good their life can be, how great New Mexico can be if they just dream big enough, right? And so we have to value these people. And I have just a quick anecdotal story, a testimonial. We hosted. I would love to tell you, but I don't have the time, about Clovis Hires. It's a career event that focused on young adults that we started in Clovis. And by the way, as soon as I said, hey, I have this idea, I kind of want to do this youth workforce development thing that I've heard Albuquerque does, that Mayor Keller does, but we're going to do it our way, and we're going to do it in Clovis. Would anyone help me? Guess what? Everyone at that office I was telling you about, who I can't really figure out whose title is what and what they do, they all came and helped. And so did Clovis Community College. So did Clovis Municipal Schools. Everyone partnered, and we pulled off an event. We've had it 2 years in a row now, and we've learned some lessons. It's going to be even better next year. But in helping with Clovis hires, I became connected with WIOA, the people that don't work for the department. They work for Eastern New Mexico University, and they're funded with the WIOA funds. And they have what they call Unearthing Future Opportunities Workforce Development Conference, right? Because I got connected with them, they said, Mayor, we want you to come talk at our conference in Rio Doso. I said, I'd be glad to. I always say yes. So I go down there and they said, but we don't want to hear from the mayor. We want to hear from the insurance guy. And I said, oh, okay, great. That's fine. And so I had a session where I told these young adults about the opportunities that exist within the insurance industry. And I just had such a great time. And I was standing out in the hall at the Inn of the Mountain Gods, visiting with Luis and Chrissy, who I don't think are here today. And they said, what do you think? And I said, I love it. I want to host this in Clovis next year. And they looked at me like, it's going to take some doing. And I said, we can do it. I called Clovis on the way home and said, hey, we're hosting the conference next year. We need to get to work. And so we did. Earlier this year, and I promise it's worth all this talking. Earlier this year, we hosted the conference in our city at our Civic Center. And I was amped about that. I did fundraising for sponsorships and all this. And I understood we had 150 to 250. I was hoping it was going to be like 1,000 young adults come to town. And so I go out to the Civic Center and I'm shaking hands and greeting those young people as they came off of buses into our Civic Center. I wanted them to know that the mayor of Clovis thinks they're special, and we were glad they were there, and we valued them. And I connected with a few of them on the way in. And moments later, as the sessions were about to start, I approached a couple of young men seated already, ready for a session that I know the man that was giving it. They were in for a great session. But I just went up to them and I said, hey guys, how's it going? Is your hotel good? And they, oh yeah, thanks. We like our hotel. It's very nice. And I said, where are you from? They were from Roswell. I said, have you ever been to Clovis? And I don't even know what the first young man said because of what the second young man said. And the second young man looked at me very reserved, very polite, gentlemanly young guy, but you could tell he was a little nervous about where he was. And he just said, sir, no, I've not been here before because this is my first time on an out-of-town trip. And that touched me, right? Because it didn't matter at that moment that it's WIOA funds and that they don't work for the department and they work for Eastern, and it doesn't matter. And it didn't matter who sponsored the event. It didn't matter. None of it mattered. What mattered is that young New Mexican's horizon was about to get broader and brighter. And he was going to run into adult after adult after adult over the next couple of days while he's staying in a nice hotel, eating convention center food. He was going to run into adult after adult that was going to tell him that he was valuable, that he had a bright future. And hey, we just need to help you find what your future is. Here's another. Yeah. So it's got to be personal, right? That's what we're going for. We're speaking life and value into New Mexicans. We have to dream bigger and work harder. And yes, we've got problems that we have to overcome as a state, but we can do it. We can do it because we remain optimistic. We're partners in this, and it's personal. This is our state. It's our future. Thank you.
So Mayor Morris was teasing me when we talked earlier this week and said, how many people had to cancel before you got down to me as your keynote speaker? And I said, Mayor, you were at the top of the list, and I meant it, and I think you will all see why. So let's have another round of applause for Mayor Mike Morris. So before we let you go to all these fabulous breakout sessions, I'm going to ask our local Workforce Development Board Administrative Entity Directors to come on up. Lisa Ortiz, Arthur Martinez, Gloria Juarez, and Beth Elias. You can stay if you want. Yeah, you don't have to go anywhere. Yeah, come on up. So one of the things that has made me frustrated over the past couple of years is that people show up over here at people show up at our office, the TIWA building, because they've gotten it together to look up the word workforce, and they found the Tiwa building, and I've watched our security guards day after day turn away people and say, actually, you got to go to Mountain Road because this is the Workforce Solutions Department, and what you're looking for is the Workforce Connection Center. And why anyone would know that is beyond me, or why we would ask them to do it. And so I never loved the name Workforce Connection Center. And so when I was down actually in Clovis, I turned to one of my many trusted partners in this world, Beth, and I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love the name Workforce Connection Center? And she said, I don't. And we started asking some other folks, including all the folks at this table. And it turns out that all of us have been a little frustrated with this brand confusion, with the fact that when people see that name on their door, they think it's our department and not all of you, which is really what happens in those centers. And so today we're really excited to unveil some new branding for our local workforce centers. We are introducing them as the America's Job Center New Mexico. And I think at some point, there we go. Yay! So those of you who have been living in the WEO world for a long time know that this is what the feds call us anyway. This is their branding. We didn't have to make anything up. You can see we're taking their symbol. There'll be a version of this with each city that will indicate those offices. I think what it means is when people move from state to state, they will know to look for an America's Job Center. When people like the U.S. Department of Labor or other states are promoting their America's Job Center, they're big promoting our job centers at the same time. And it has the word job in it, which I feel like is really important for people to know what's going on inside. And so I wanted all of our administrative entities to join us over here and to say just a couple words about the rebranding, because it really was a group effort, a group decision, and a group commitment. It's going to give us a chance to relaunch the brand, relaunch the products in all of our communities, and really give us an opportunity to tell the story of the amazing work that everyone does in those centers. So we'll just go in order here if you want to say a few words, Lisa.
Thank you, Secretary Nair, and I appreciate you including each of the boards to vote on this important matter. So the signage, I think that will help assist each of our participants in our communities and understand where they can go for services in each of our small rural communities. Thank you.
I believe the rebranding effort is a real clear expression of our unity within the state, as every region was consulted, and I really appreciate that. I believe the name change is going to be aligned with the actual act, which we're guided by. So I'm fully support of this rebranding effort.
It's unusual that I need a microphone, but we'll give this a shot. I'm excited for the opportunity to rebrand the system. I know I've worked with many of you in this room for many years, and how many of you have ever been asked the question, well, what is it exactly that you do? Have you ever been thought to work for one of the different agencies in the system than the one that you actually do? The rebranding of the job centers gives some separation to the system for the umbrella of the partners as the workforce development system to claim their own identity and actually be representative of the impact they actually have, where it's no longer a confusion. Before his beautiful speech, Mayor Morris was at the table trying to have me help connect the dots. And I think that this is a huge step in making that a more easily digestible piece for all of the partners within the system, and I'm very thankful for to the Secretary for actually seeing that as a need. It's long overdue.
Hi, I'm Arthur Martinez. I guess my perspective is this is now the second rebranding of the workforce centers. When we first started the one-stop environment, we were called the Business and Career Centers, which meant a lot for us because it invited the businesses in for an opportunity for workforce development and also to employ the participants instead of just a job. I like the aspect of a job, but it was for a career. In 2014, the rebranding occurred, and that was, again, to provide unity and one brand across all the workforce centers. And New Mexico came up with the New Mexico Workforce Connection. Unfortunately for Albuquerque, that indicated some confusion for them, because the fact is you had the TIWA building, which is the New Mexico Workforce Department of Workforce Solutions, but then you had New Mexico Workforce Connection. It was really difficult not only for the businesses, but also for the participants to understand where to go. And I think Secretary Neer expressed that. But I think this opportunity is good for us. I would like to see America's Job Center, New Mexico Central Region. We can work on that because I do believe that we have to distinguish the fact. I'm sorry. We have to distinguish the fact that we do have 4 regions within the state, and we are separate and distinct, and we all have our unique items that we specialize in, if you would. But again, this is a good effort for rebranding, and we're fully endorse it.
Thank you all. Yeah, and we no longer have to write in that tiny print, a proud partner of the America Job Center Network. I went to the ribbon cutting in Raton, and this wonderful woman had actually written that all on a cake. That was one of the first symbols that we needed to make a change. But look, we're not gonna do this all at once. We're gonna try to make sure we replace all the external signs, and then as you run out of business cards, when you buy the new business cards, you'll put the new name on it. So this won't be a huge one-time expense, but I think it will be a real exciting opportunity. So our team has made a media wall outside where you can take selfies, or you can take pictures of yourself in front of the new logo and the new name. And certainly when we do the hard launch on January 1st, when we kind of make the formal switch over, we would love to see all of our social media accounts flooded with your pictures in front of the new name. So that's why we put that out there, and thanks to Stacy for doing that. So with that exciting announcement, we will let you loose to go to your breakout sessions. Thanks so much for being here.